According to National Electrical Code Section 430.24, the generator feeder side overcurrent protection device must be sized to handle the maximum starting current of the motor. For a wye-delta starting motor, the maximum starting current is limited to 200% of the full load amps. Therefore, the maximum starting current for a 125 horsepower motor is determined as follows. First, calculate the full load amps. This is equal to 907 amps divided by 1.732, the conversion factor for Y to delta, which equals 524 amps. Then calculate the maximum starting current. This is equal to 524 amps multiplied by 200%, which equals 1048 amps. Since the fire pump controller has 250 amp molded case switches, the generator feeder side overcurrent protection device must be rated for at least 1048 amps. However, it is also important to consider the National Electrical Code Section 430.22 exception for fire pumps. This exception states that the overcurrent protection device on the generator feeder side can be sized for 150% of the full load amps if the motor has a nameplate marking that indicates a limited starting current. In this case, the motor has a nameplate marking that indicates a maximum starting current of 33% of the locked rotor amps. Therefore, we can use the following formula to calculate the generator feeder side overcurrent protection device rating. 150% multiplied by the full load amps, which is 150% multiplied by 524 amps, which equals 786 amps. Since the fire pump controller has 250 amp molded case switches, the generator feeder side overcurrent protection device must be rated for at least 786 amps. A 350 amp thermal magnetic circuit breaker is not correct, as it is not rated for the maximum starting current of the motor. A 500 amp thermal magnetic circuit breaker would be more appropriate. According to National Electrical Code Section 430.72b, the normal side disconnect for a fire pump must be rated for the locked rotor amps of the motor. Since the motor in this case has a locked rotor amps of 907 amps, the disconnect must be rated for at least 907 amps. Additionally, the normal side disconnect must be horsepower rated. The disconnect must be rated for the horsepower of the motor, or for the next higher horsepower rating that is available. In this case, the motor is 125 horsepower, so the disconnect must be rated for at least 125 horsepower. Therefore, an unfused disconnect with a rating of 1200 amps, 125 horsepower would be appropriate for the normal side of the fire pump.